Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to our latest explainer, where we're breaking down what has to be one of the most physically and mentally grueling challenges ever attempted by digital creator Mr. Beast. We're talking about the 30-day fast. Today, we're going to track Jimmy's crazy journey to survive a full month without a single bite of food. We'll look at the psychological warfare he faced and just the ultimate test of human willpower. But before we get into the daily grind of all this, I want you to really think about something for a second. Would you go 30 days without a single calorie just to save your hair? Because, well, that is the exact wager Jimmy made. It's honestly a fascinating study in motivation, you know? He wasn't doing this for some massive cash prize or a charity stunt. No, he was doing it because the penalty for failure was total public humiliation. Basically, his friend Chris would get to completely shave his head if he cracked. Think about the sheer, almost unreasonable willpower it takes to avoid food entirely for a month, just to keep your hair.
So the crucial point is the strict framework of this whole thing. Starting at a body weight of 220 pounds, Jimmy wasn't just casually skipping a couple of meals here and there. The rules were absolute. 30 days, 0 calories, water only. But as you probably know, a sudden, severe fast like that can be incredibly dangerous. So he had a team of doctors tracking his vitals every single day. This supervision was absolutely paramount. The medical team was strictly in place to ensure he didn't literally suffer a heart attack or worse, as his body inevitably went into intense survival mode.
To make sure he didn't fail on literal day one, Jimmy took immediate, really drastic action. He declared, "I don't want a single calorie of food in this house." And he meant it. He had his friends practically tear apart his kitchen, literally clearing out every single edible item. There were ceramic plates shattering as they tossed things around. Actually, right out of the gate, his friend Chris accidentally broke the microwave entirely. From that very first night, just laying in bed without his usual pre-sleep snack, the mental and physical battle had officially begun. The kitchen was completely empty, and the only thing entering his body for the next month was going to be water. And man, the physical toll was immediate. It was rapid. Starting at 220 pounds, he was already down 2.5 pounds by the end of day 2. By day 7, an astounding 12 pounds had just vanished. And by day 13, we're talking about an 18-pound weight loss. As the weight absolutely plummeted, his exhaustion naturally skyrocketed. But remember, he wasn't just sitting in bed resting. He was pushing through this severe lethargy to keep filming these intense, high-energy challenges, like watching a guy spend 100 days in a circle. Filming on a completely empty stomach drained him at a terrifying rate.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer irony of Jimmy's environment, which made this exponentially harder. On one hand, his actual diet consisted strictly of water and ice cubes, which, by the way, he tried to crunch on just to celebrate hitting the 1-week mark. But on the other hand, he was simultaneously launching his snack brand Feastables, so he literally had to do a photo shoot where he fake bit into chocolate bars while smiling through the pain. And worse yet, he was actively building a literal chocolate factory for an upcoming video, complete with a massive chocolate fountain. The psychological torture of trying to fast while surrounded by mountains of candy is just unimaginable.
Making matters so much worse was the relentless peer pressure from his friends. They held absolutely nothing back. They desperately wanted to see him fail. We're talking renting an ice cream truck, blasting music right outside his house, and hurling frozen treats at his home until they literally shattered a window. They would casually eat McDonald's right in front of him, order pizzas to his house. Oh, and when he flew out to New York, they completely filled his house and his bed with food so the smell would just overwhelm him the second he walked through the door. It was a constant, nonstop barrage of temptation. By days 10 through 12, though, the physical toll really crossed into dangerous territory. His doctor actually noted a pretty terrifying symptom, telling him, "I saw you sleep 8 times today." Extreme lethargy had completely taken over at this point. Jimmy was experiencing throbbing stomach pains, severe nausea, and just this constant heavy fatigue on set. At one point, he couldn't even film for more than 20 minutes without desperately needing to sit down. He actually nearly scrapped the entire Chocolate Factory video because his energy was just so low. He was sleeping on couches in the studio, barely able to keep his eyes open, which prompted a very serious check-in with his medical team. During these check-ins, the medical mechanics of the fast were monitored super rigorously. To prove he wasn't sneaking food behind the scenes, doctors looked at a specific hormone called leptin. Basically, leptin helps regulate your energy balance by inhibiting hunger. So by monitoring his hormone levels and his electrolytes, the doctor could definitively see the actual physiological markers of fasting. Despite his totally sinking energy and constant sleepiness, his blood work proved beyond a shadow of a doubt his absolute adherence to the water-only diet.
His body was officially running on empty.
Let's move to and see how this builds toward a massive breaking point. -18. That is the total number of pounds Jimmy lost in just under 2 weeks. By day 13, sitting 18 pounds lighter than his starting weight, the guy was barely functioning. Yet his schedule didn't stop. Despite the severe fatigue, and despite the very real warnings from his doctor that they could step in and break the fast for his safety at literally any moment, a deeply sleep-deprived Jimmy boarded a late-night flight to Las Vegas for a massive collaboration.
So picture this. It is day 14, 1 a.m. in Las Vegas. He has officially crossed the 2-week mark on 0 calories, running entirely on fumes, turning down peanuts from flight attendants, and just painfully watching his friend Nolan eat snacks in their hotel room. But this trip to Vegas wasn't just for some standard video. No, he was walking directly into the ultimate culinary trap. At this horribly vulnerable, severely sleep-deprived moment, Jimmy was scheduled to meet with one of the most famous world-class culinary experts alive, Chef Gordon Ramsay. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Ramsay applied the ultimate guilt trip. He didn't just walk in and say hello. He cooked a beautiful, sloppy, incredibly rich breakfast sandwich right in front of a starving Jimmy. And then he dropped a bomb. He told Jimmy that he would be the first person in Ramsay's entire legendary career to refuse a dish cooked from start to finish. Ramsay, who was fully aware of the 30-day challenge, by the way, practically begged him, saying just take a little bite, right? I mean, the agonizing pressure of having a world-class chef cook specifically for you while you're 14 days deep into starvation. That is a literal masterclass in psychological tension. But here's the thing. It wasn't as simple as just taking a quick bite. Jimmy was highly aware of refeeding syndrome. If you don't know, this is a very real, incredibly dangerous medical condition caused by a sudden influx of food, particularly carbs, after prolonged starvation. So he initially tried to negotiate with Ramsay. He said he would take a bite just to taste it, but technically he'd have to spit it out. Why? Because a sudden, massive intake of carbohydrates after 14 days of absolutely zero food could actually put his body into a dangerous state of shock. And this brought Jimmy to the ultimate crossroads. On one hand, he could endure 16 more grueling, agonizing days just to appease his friends and save his hair. Or he could taste Gordon Ramsay's world-class cooking right now, officially break the fast, and lose the wager. Staring down that beautiful breakfast sandwich, while the temptation was finally too much, Jimmy caved. He took the bite, swallowed it, and immediately declared it the best thing he had ever tasted in his entire life. He felt this instant, crazy surge of energy, ultimately choosing the meal and, honestly, his own well-being over the massive wager.
And so, we arrive at the bald truth. The fast was officially broken on day 14. A deal's a deal, right? And with absolutely gleeful enthusiasm, his friend Chris took an electric razor right to the middle of Jimmy's head. The sheer volume of hair coming off actually forced them to bring in a professional barber to finish the job because it was getting so ridiculously patchy. Jimmy accepted his penalty, looked at his completely buzzed head in the mirror, and immediately committed to wearing a hat for the next 5 months just to hide the result of his failure.
So we've seen the extreme physical drain, the targeted sabotage, and the ultimate culinary curveball that broke a man of intense willpower. But what about you? Could you resist your ultimate temptation after 14 days of starvation, surrounded by peers who actively want you to fail, and staring down a meal prepared by a legendary chef? Or would you trade your hair and your pride for just one glorious bite? It's a fascinating look at the limits of human endurance versus irresistible temptation. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning just how far you would go.